4, 3, 2, 1, go. Left 5 thrust fast up and loose long crest. Right 5, late continues. Right 5, late continues. Down 55.
Hello, Subie fam. Welcome back to another episode of the Subie YOU podcast. Also, welcome back to another episode with Rhianon Gelsomino. As you can see, this is titled Rally 101. So what we did is we got together and she came on here and talked all about rally, especially with how it relates to her and Travis Pastrana and their driving and rallies together. So we get into that episode here in a little bit. But first, we got to take care of some business, of course. But this is a really great episode. I'm very, very thankful for her coming back on and doing this with me and doing this for all of you to learn more about what rally is and how it works. So thank you so much, Rhianon, for coming back on the podcast to do this episode. And this episode is brought to you by Melee Design Firm. Melee Design Firm is your battery and battery mount specialist, so go check them out at meleedesignfirm.com. See what all they have to offer, whether you're wanting to just shed some weight from your car, get a new battery, or dress up your engine bay with some engine bay caps that they have to offer. If you are into rallying your car, their battery mounts are especially crucial for keeping your battery secure and keeping it in place, and also, again, shedding some weight. So go check out meleedesignfirm.com, check out their Instagram page, and also follow Melee Media as well and see what they're doing out there in the race world. Thanks again, Melee Design Firm, for sponsoring the Subie YOU podcast. This episode is also brought to you by subarugear.com. And if you haven't gone to check out the website yet, go check it out. They have a lot of really great products that help you represent the company and the brand and the cars that you absolutely love, because that's what we're all here for, right? So go check out subarugear.com. And while you're browsing around and shopping, whatever it is you decide to pick out and you put it in your cart, and you go to checkout, use the code Subie YOU to get 15% off of your purchase plus free shipping. That was really, really great of Subaru to extend a offer like that to all of you listening to this podcast. I think that was really great. So take advantage of that 15% off plus shipping. Go check it out today. Thanks again, SubaruGear.com, for sponsoring the Subie YOU podcast. Hey, if you follow my build, Pearl the Crosstrek, I'm sure you have seen my awesome Tetons by Rhianon VS, and you really like those, you like the style, or maybe you like the Seekers or the Detours, you can go check out RhiaCavs.com/Subie YOU to get 10% off of your purchase of a set of wheels or even one of their lift kits. Wherever it is that you want to go in your pursuit of adventure, Rhianon is committed to providing you with the highest quality specialized wheels and lift kits that will allow you to travel further, experience new adventures, and discover extraordinary destinations. Rhianon wants to make sure that you are ready for anything wherever your adventure takes you. Rhiacon's Flowform process creates both lightweight and durable wheels, which are of the highest quality and are built to satisfy the requirements of all of you adventure enthusiasts. And Rhianon lift kits raise your Subaru to protect the vehicle's underbody from damage while off-roading. The lift kits were also designed to increase the vehicle ride height in order to accommodate larger tires while maintaining the factory ride quality and alignment. The quest for adventure begins with you, and Rhianon is what gets you there. Thank you so much, Rhianon VS, for sponsoring the Subie YOU podcast. I also have to give a shout out to Orbis Overlanding for stepping up and helping me to create a space for some Subie YOU podcast merchandise. So go check out the Orbis Overlanding website, go to shop and scroll down to Subie YOU and pick out your item to help rep the podcast and also support it. You can also find a link in my bio, which will take you straight to the Subie YOU merchandise at the Orbis Overlanding website. Thank you so much, Orbis Overlanding, for sponsoring the Subie YOU podcast. Another way that you can help support and rep the podcast is by purchasing a Subie YOU car decal, which you can display on one of your windows for other people to see that you love this podcast. So go check out the link in my bio and get your decal today. Also, while you're there, you can explore the Eccentric Designs website and see what other great products that she offers for your Subaru. Thank you so much, Eccentric Designs, for helping to put these little decals together for me, for other people to rep the podcast and also be able to see your website and what you have to offer. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you again so much. Also, if you haven't done so, consider becoming a patron of the podcast. Patreon is a way to support the content and creators that you love, like this podcast. So if you have any questions, you can always send me a DM and ask me anything about it. I would be happy to answer for you. All right, we're just about done, but before we get into this episode with Rhianon Gelsomino, I have a few shout outs. We've got Slow X Trek, Scout the Ascent, and Little Ruby Subie. Thank you all for checking out the podcast, and thank you for sharing. All right, so here we go with Rally 101 with Rhianon Gelsomino. I want to say thank you for coming back on the podcast and for doing this little Rally 101 series.
Yeah, it should be exciting. I'm sure there's a few people that listen in that are still quite new to rally. They might be driving a Subaru but don't know much about what we do out in rally stages. So some people might have tuned into launch control, and now we can give a 101 here. So it should be fun.
Yeah, and I mean, I started watching more of it after I had Warwick on, and I've started going back and looking at some of the old episodes too. And it's such a great show, and it's like really helped me understand what rally is and rallycross too. But just, it's like watching it and hearing them explain everything has really, really helped me get to know what it is better. But I'm looking forward to this too, to have you talk about rally.
Yeah, and I think it's fun that at the moment we have launch control coming out every Wednesday. So,
Yeah.
I sit there and wait and say, oh, what have they put on of me this time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what they did. Thanks. So how's Travis doing, by the way?
Yeah, he's at home recovering with his wife and girls. So unfortunately, as some of you would have known, he had a little accident doing a base jump while doing some filming for Gymkhana the other day. So he's broken some bones, and now we need him to mend and get better so we can get back out rallying as soon as possible. So he's a pretty tough dude. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that he'll make sure we're back out there as quickly as he can be.
Did they happen to say like how long he might be out?
No, it's just going to be a week by week thing, I think. So
Yeah.
we'll go to his doctor and get updates and see how things are mending and see how he is, and we'll just go from that. So I go to his house soon and we'll do some prep work for the season, and we'll see how things are going. But like I said, he's pretty tough, so I'm sure we'll be out there pretty quick.
Yeah. So are you able to let us know like when the season starts?
I mean, ARA starts next week.
Oh.
The first round is February 18th and 19th, but it's still unknown if we're going to be there. So we'll just wait and see what happens with Trav, and yeah, we'll go from that. And luckily, ARA this year is 9 rounds, but you can drop 3, so only 6 count for points.
Okay.
So if we do have to drop the first round, it's more important he gets better, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
we want to win the championship, but let's get him better first, and then we'll worry about winning again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And so we wanted to get you on here to talk about rally. And so we're calling this Rally 101 with Rhianon Gelsomino. And I guess my first question is like, what are the different American Rally Association events that Subaru competes in the USA?
Yeah, so as we all know, America's a pretty big country. So they try and spread the championship all over, so it's not just catering to one area. So how they run the national championship is they have 9 rounds and only 6 of them count. So they try and make sure there's, some in Central America, some in the East Coast, some on the West Coast, so that it moves around, so that for privateer teams especially, if they're based in Michigan, it's obviously a long drive for them to get to the rally in Oregon sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the ARA has 9 rounds all over the country to cater for, those people that are having to drive long trips, take more time off work and all those sort of things. So huge countries mean more money for rally teams, especially when they're privateers, because more time off work and more travel and things like that. But it's good in a way that they have made it 9 rounds and 6 that count, because it does help for people who can't afford to do all 9 rounds if they can only get to 6 or something like that, which is a great thing.
Yeah. So do you know what the 9 rounds are? Because I mean, if they're going all across the country, I know there's a bunch of different ones, and those are exciting to see the ones that y'all participate in.
Yeah. So the national championship will be Snowdrift, 100 Acre Wood, Olympus, Oregon, Ohio, New England Forest Rally, Alice PR, STPR, and Ojibwe. So those are spread all over. Like I said, some are in Oregon, some are in Pennsylvania. They're all spread over Ohio, all over the country. And those are the 9 national rounds, those ones I listed. And then there's obviously regional rallies as well. So if people do want to go out and watch, we have in ARA, we have national championship, which are the ones that I just listed. And then we have regional championships as well that you can go and competing. So you can go watch any of them, and I think regional is something like another 10 rallies on top of that. It could even be more. So there's a lot of events that you can get out to, and there's always Subarus there and spectating and all the fun stuff like that. So the national ones is obviously where Subaru Motorsport USA will be seeing Travis and I and things like that. But if you just want to get out and actually go to a rally, be part of it, volunteer, and you mightn't be near any of the national rounds, jump on the American Rally Association webpage and go to the regional rallies and see if there's any of those close to you, because you could easily get down and check them out as well.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because I didn't realize that they had the regional ones too. So that's really cool. And I know somebody that has, it goes by audiophile. I believe he and his wife have, they've volunteered and helped out and stuff, because they talked about doing some of the stuff in the trailer and helping organize it and things like that, and doing, being there with part of the races. So that'd be really cool. It'd be fun to, if somebody is close by, to have that opportunity to go do that.
Yeah, and a lot of people reach out to me from different states. Like a guy yesterday, like, oh, do you guys race in Ohio? Well, yeah, the national championship currently has a round in Ohio. So, that American Rally Association webpage, when you go on to events, it'll say national events and regional events. And if you just go and have a look, and you'll find hopefully something that's nearby you that you could go out if you're just wanting to get into rally and see how it works. And then maybe if you want to progress further, it might be that, you drive 6 hours to see a national rally or something like that. So the cool thing is there is a lot of options to get out there and get involved and see what rally is.
Yeah, and after watching Launch Control, to me, it would be worth driving 6 hours to see that in person. I think that would be a lot of fun. So are the American Rally Association rules and regulations the same as the World Rally Championship?
No, so how it works is the World Rally Championship is governed by the FIA, which is the governing body that oversees the World Rally Championship. It also governs Formula One and all those sort of things. So here in America, we're not actually governed by FIA. So what that means is the American Rally Championship can actually devise their own set of rules. So at the moment, they are trying to move towards more FIA. So a lot of new rules come out this year in the rule book that were like straight from FIA rules, which was quite interesting, because I've competed all over the world and in the World Championship and everything. And for me, those rules weren't anything new, because I've obviously raced with them before.
Yeah.
But a lot of other people on forums and stuff are like, I don't understand this new rule and this and that. So so over here, our cars are different. So if we wanted to go do a world rally in our Subaru, for example, our Subaru doesn't meet the FIA specs, because meets the American specs. So they would need to change things on our cars to meet the regulations and the rules that they have set for the World Rally Championship compared to the American Rally Championship. So definitely different, but at the same time, it makes it pretty exciting because our Subarus over here are really fast, and not many national championships have that opportunity because the national rules are usually a lot stricter and don't allow such fast cars.
Yeah, they are extremely fast. And like I said, watching more of the episodes of Launch Control and seeing just how fast y'all drive through those stages and like some of the turns and everything, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm kind of cringing and watching it, especially when you go over a jump and then you come down and then there's a turn almost right away. I'm like, that just seems like so intense. But, you talked a lot about that in your episode previously about you and Travis get so prepared that, you're not really thinking about like, oh, we're going so fast and freaking out or anything, that you're there to race and focus and use your notes and everything. And like, you work so well together, and it's fun to see y'all going through those stages and calling out the notes and making the turns and everything. And so it's really exciting, and I'm really like really getting into it. So it's been fun for me to like learn more about it.
That's great. I love it when new people get into the sport. I love because obviously here in America, it's still quite a new sport in some way. So I love it when I hear a new passion coming from someone who loves Subarus and now loves rally, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's like I'm still so new to Subaru, period, because I didn't know a whole lot when I bought my car back in September of 2020. And then, since starting the podcast, it's just opened up a whole new world to me. And so I'm like extremely thankful for all the people that I've connected with and all the opportunities that I've had of people to have on the podcast, like you and Warwick, and then some others coming up. And so, it's gonna be really fun, and I really enjoy watching the show and learning more about it. But as far as like the national rallies, how many different rally teams usually participate in the rally events? Because we see a lot on the show. We see Subaru, and then we see
Barry McKenna.
yeah, we see Barry McKenna, and so. But every once in a while, you'll see that there's another car lining up behind them. So, how many actual teams participate?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, obviously, like I said before, it's a really big country. So, there's some events are more popular than others because they're based in an area where there's a lot of rally people. So, for Snowdrift, for example, Snowdrift isn't the most loved rally in America. It's a snow and ice rally, and we can't use studs. So, it's pretty scary, to be honest with you. So, at the moment, I think it maybe has like 50 entries, which is quite low these days in America. It used to be really high, but if you skip to the second round, which is 100 Acre Wood, their entry allowed 95 people to enter, and
Wow.
yeah, and within 24 hours that was sold out.
Wow.
So it varies, like I say. So 100 Acre Wood has double the entries of Snowdrift, for example, but that's because a lot of people are choosing to drop Snowdrift because it's such a tough event where you've got no studs, you're on ice and snow, versus when you get to 100 Acre Wood where it's easier, on the team and stuff like that. So more people are jumping on to do that rally and make sure they secure points for their championship rather than Snowdrift. So on average, we're looking at like usually around 80 teams at the moment in America, and it can be up to anything like 100. So rally at the moment and we're just talking about national, like there's countless other rallies in regional and stuff where people are racing as well. So, rally is really strong here in America at the moment. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, because I've seen some people that are not obviously on Subaru Motorsports USA team, but that are racing rallies and stuff. So it's really good to know that there's so much that goes beyond just what we see like on launch control. I mean, I like now I'm starting to realize this thing is huge, and it's
Yeah.
really, really cool to see that and know that there's, I guess, a lot of opportunities for people to do this and get involved with it.
Yeah, and there's so many different classes. So you see our class on launch control, which is the open class, the fastest cars out there. But, you have two-wheel drive classes, and then you have limited four-wheel drive class, and all these different classes that you can enter. So I actually have won the American two-wheel drive championship in 2017 and 2013. So I've also won the national two-wheel drive championship, and then obviously the overall championship with Travis. So there's countless, different classes and opportunities for people. And if they just want to get into the sport at the lower level, don't think that you have to be competing against Travis and I in our open class Subaru. Like, there's so many other classes that you could be really successful in your little car that you might build or buy or whatever by entering in the class that's applicable to your car.
Yeah, and I mean, it just seems like if you wanted to just get out there and do that and just kind of have the experience, you can just go out and just have some fun.
Correct. Exactly. There's a lot of people that, are out there just having fun. It's not costing them a fortune because they're doing it. They're running hard compound tires, so their tires aren't wearing out, so that then they can, virtually just use 8 tires for the season, whereas if you're looking at us, we're talking about 12, 16 tires per rally. So, there's so many different levels that you can rally at. So it's important for the listeners to know that, this is possible for a lot of people to get into it. It's not just a sport for the rich people. You can also buy a lower level car or build a lower level car and get in at that point as well.
Yeah, that's really good because I know there's people that would, want to be able to, and if they can modify a car that they already have enough to just go and just enjoy it and have some fun, I like that. That's really cool. So with the with the events, how long before starting the event do you and Travis do reconnaissance or recce, as you call it, and of the stages to write your pace notes?
Yeah, so usually a national round, we would arrive on Tuesday, and then Wednesday we would do team testing, and then Thursday we would do recce or reconnaissance, and then we would race Friday, Saturday. So that is usually how a national rally would work. So you're virtually gone. It's usually around 6 days to a week if your team's testing and doing all the things I just spoke about. So the recce will be the day before the start of the rally. So the good thing is that you're not wrecking too early, because if it rains overnight or something like that, obviously conditions change a lot. So once we do recce, obviously at the end of that, Travis and I will watch all our videos, check our notes over as well. So the recce will be 2 passes of every stage minimum, and then obviously the video of every stage, and then the work on the notes before we then start racing the next 2 days. So it's very close to when we start, which is great.
Yeah, yeah. And what is the Subaru recce you and Travis use? Is it the same as the rally car?
Yeah, so we have a WRX. So a lot of people ask why we don't have an STI and why we don't have a manual, because it's actually an automatic WRX. And the main reason for using the automatic WRX is because then Travis, when he's writing his notes and steering with the wheel and working out the degree or the corner angle and things like that, it's much better if he's just focused on, the road rather than changing gears and things like that. So a lot of people ask why we're not in a STI, but it's if people know the STI, you can only get in manual. So you can't get it in the automatic. So it's important that we're in an automatic WRX, which is obviously similar height off the ground to our rally car, similar size. So when he's driving in recce, it feels, quite the same as what the rally car is in some ways. And yeah, he's not having to worry about changing gears and things. He's just worrying about driving the car on recce.
Yeah, and then can you go over again how, the speed that you drive recce, and then how you prepare after that for the race before it comes up?
Yep. So in recce, what will happen is in the regulations, the rally will stipulate what their recce speed is. So on average in America, it'll be 30 miles per hour or 35 miles per hour. That's generally what they restrict us to on recce. And you can go up to 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. If you go anything over that, you're going to get fined and penalized
Wow.
for the rally. So you don't want that, because that can ruin your event just on recce. So on recce, we'll be doing between 30 to 35. And then we obviously record that, like I said that before. And when we get back to the hotel that night, when we watch it at double speed to practice for the rally, then it obviously means that the recce video is like the equivalent of doing 70 miles per hour. So it's a good way for us to practice what the rally would be like by just doing the recce video at double speed versus the fact that we're only allowed to travel 35 miles per hour on the actual recce itself.
So does he put it in cruise control so that he makes sure to not go over?
Sometimes on the faster rallies, we say that would be a good idea because, in all honesty, at Oregon, for example, lots of like really fast straights, like 1 mile where you barely have any turns. And so it's very easy to like do over 35 miles per hour. So cruise control in those sections is definitely a good option.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that. That'd be kind of funny, you know. Oh, let's just put this in cruise control and make sure we don't go over our speed.
Exactly. And on recce, the roads are open. So like a lot of people say to us, oh, you know, people are driving too slow, people are driving too fast, all these sort of things on recce. But the main thing is it's open to the public. So, you know, it's very important that we're staying on the correct side of the road. We're not going too fast. We're, you know, abiding by the normal road rules because it's still open and people, you know, we're going past people's houses and all those sort of things. So recce is obviously important for us to write our pace notes for the rally so we can obviously get in the stages and go flat out. But also it's important that the event has regulations like 35 miles per hour and things like that. And we're not allowed to drive the stage in reverse. We're only allowed to drive it the direction that we drive it in the rally and things like that, purely just to make it a lot safer for general public that might be out there and there's 100 recce cars coming through their road and usually only 3 cars are on that road every day.
Yeah, and so I guess all these stages and roads that y'all are doing the rallies on, these are just existing roads in all these locations?
Correct. So if we went to do the rally in Oregon, for example, they just get permits for the specific roads that they want to race on. And those permits then tell them the road can be closed from this time on, say, the 7th of December until this time. And the road is completely closed when we obviously race it. And so every single stage road that we have is an existing road that's usually a normal everyday road that people can drive on. And the event has just had to get all special permits to be allowed to do that. So it's a lot of work for the event because they need to, if there's house owners along those roads, they need to go to all of those and get permission from them that they're happy for, you know, their road to be closed from this time to this time on this date with rally cars. And so sometimes obviously organizers get the answer of no, you're not able to use that road, or they might get told that we don't want you to use that road again because it was too much damage or things like that. So obviously it's always changing what stages they can and can't run depending on what permission they get as far as permits and things like that.
Yeah, so that can change year to year. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and also it's important, the event doesn't really want to run exactly the same stages every year because otherwise what happens is the teams that are competing every year, they have their pace notes and their videos from the year before, and they're just turning up every year knowing the stages really well. And it becomes a little bit unfair to the newer teams that are coming in. And Travis and I might know every single stage because it's the same as last year, and they're coming in and they don't know any stages. So it's not only important, you know, as far as the way the permits and everything work, but just for the competitors. So it's not just the same thing over and over repetitive every year. It does have a change.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned pace notes. So what are the pace notes and how or why are they needed to drive fast?
Yeah, so the pace notes, if you're watching launch control and you hear me calling those different numbers and things, that's what the pace notes are. So how the pace notes work for Travis, for example, he uses a 1 to 6 system. And that tells him what degree the corner will be when he gets to it. So a 6 would be like a flat out corner. So just say you've got your steering wheel and you're turning your steering wheel. If you're turning your steering wheel and it's sort of like a 90-degree corner, that's going to be about a 3 for Travis. And if your steering wheel is barely moving at all, that's going to be a 6. So it's flat out. And then if you're turning your steering wheel all the way around and it's like doing a hairpin, that's going to be either a 1 or a hairpin. So the numbers that you're hearing that I'm calling are going to be telling him the actual degree of the corner in a way. So 1 to 6 for him. And he also has pluses and minuses. So if you hear me say a left 5 plus, a left 5 plus will mean, okay, this corner is not quite a 6, but it's not as low as a 5. So it's somewhere in between a 5 and a 6. So you have a plus and minus. And then you'll hear me say other accessory words, as we call them. So you might hear me say max. Max tells Travis, do not lift. This is maximum attack. If you hear me say don't, it's telling him don't cut this corner because there might be a tree or a rock or something that if we cut it, we're going to rip off a wheel.
Yeah.
If you hear me say in, it's meaning like stay in. So there's like a cliff on the outside. So there's all different like words that you'll hear. And when you hear them, we try and make them as short as possible and make them as easy possible for Travis to process at speed and then obviously apply it to his driving. So all those different words are obviously part of the pace notes. And then you'll hear one other thing, which is the distances. So if you hear me say like 60 or 50 or 100, or that's telling Travis from this corner to the next corner, we've got 50 meters, or from this crest to that corner, we've got 30 meters. So it's quite a lot that goes on in pace notes and a lot for the driver to take in. But if he can write really good pace notes and refine his skills so that whatever I'm delivering to him in the right timing allows him to drive as fast as possible, well, then you get the most out of your rallying.
Yeah. And are there any other specific or unique words that Travis uses in his pace notes?
Yeah, the biggest question I always get asked is, what is sumpa? And so like I got in with him and so every time I start working with a driver, the first thing I do is I sit down with them and I write out their pace note glossary, as I call it. So that will be like, okay, let's go through every single word you use in your pace notes. And then we write them down and then I put it into a computer file and whatever. And then once we do that, I then come up with shorthand for it. So Travis and I, before we started working together, we were doing a Zoom like this. And we're going over all his pace notes and he's going through each thing and he's telling me in and don't and whatever. And then he says, sumpa. And I'm like, okay, what's that? And he goes, oh, it means don't go wide. But if I say sumpa, it's easier and it's a Finnish word. And I said, oh, okay, no problem. Well, one day I thought, oh, Finnish word sumpa. And it's don't go wide. That's cool. I'll look it up. So I look it up and it does not mean don't go wide. I don't know where he got that. It means BITCH or something like that. Like it's a swear word.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. So I said to him at the next race, I'm like, do you realize sumpa doesn't mean don't go wide? And he's like, what does it mean? And I told him and he's like, well, I guess if we went off that cliff, it would be a bitch. And I'm like, yeah, it would be.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, that's funny. So that's probably the best word ever there.
Oh my goodness. And I mean, so if you hear me saying that, it's just, that's telling him don't go wide. There's something really bad there and we don't want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you're talking about the distances, being that you're in America, why are they using meters?
That's a really good question, actually. And do you know, most of the drivers I've worked with in America actually use meters. And I mean, it's quite funny, really, isn't it, to think that? But I wonder with Travis, because he uses meters and I've never asked him why he uses meters, but I wonder with all his motocross background and stuff, maybe tracks he raced on were measured in meters or something. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but I have found it very common that drivers I've worked, obviously in Australia and Europe and things like that, people use meters. And then when I got here, I thought it would be interesting to see how drivers do it. And most of them measure in meters. So we have a trip meter in the car, which is for me to be following my road book and stuff. And this is in the recce car. And then for Travis, he can measure his distances with it. So his is set up in kilometers and mine is set up in miles. Because we're in America, all of my book that I'm following to know where we're going on recce, and everything is in miles. So I had to get the team to put 2 trip meters in for us because he needed to he needed to measure his distances in meters, and I needed to measure my distances to follow the road book in miles. So the team was like, "Why do you need 2?" And then when I explained to them, they're like, okay. So it's a good question. And I need to ask you one day, like, why does meters work for you when you've grown up in America and you don't use meters here? But I'm sure there's some simple explanation of he used it growing up with his motocross or something like that.
Yeah, because it's interesting because most people here don't measure things in meters.
They wouldn't even know what a meter is. Like, I think it's around
Yeah.
3 feet or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. So on for these stages, on average, how many stages are in a rally, and are the stages the same course that you rally over and over again? So, because I hear them talking about that on launch control, they're like, "Oh, they've raced so many stages, and they're like 10 seconds ahead or whatever." So, is it the same stage over and over and over?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it's a bit like I say to people, it's in a way, it's a bit of like Tour de France in a way with the bicycle race. So how it works is, say, let's think about 100 Acre Wood, which is going to be a rally, the second rally of the championship. So they've put out their regulations, and in their regulations, they have 14 different stages which we'll compete in. But then when you look at the stages, it's something like only 7 different stages, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
then when you look at it, you might do stage 1 is also stage 4, and stage 2 is also stage 5, and stage 8 is also stage 12, sort of thing. So they tend to try and double up on stages. We don't really do too many stages 3 times because the road gets too worn out. But the reason we or the organizers try and double up on stages is when we're doing reconnaissance, generally they only have 1 day available for us to go and write our pace notes for all of the stages. So if they had us writing 14 different stages of pace notes,
Yeah.
we'd need at least 2 days of recce. So to get 2 passes on every stage, and they're quite spread out in some cases. So at 100 Acre Wood, there'll be 7 stages that Travis and I need to recce on the Thursday. And, there's some that are south and some that are north, like they sort of move around a bit and they're spread out. So to get 2 passes on all of those stages, and the stages are only open from a certain time. So they might open at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then you have to be off the stages by 5 p.m., for example. So if you haven't got your 2 passes done on all those stages, obviously it's just tough luck. You have to go out and try and race flat out with not necessarily the best notes. So that's why they tend to do that. Even at the world level, you'll find that you'll do 3 stages of service, and then when you go back out, you'll repeat those 3 stages, and that'll be day 1. And then day 2, you might do 4 stages and then a service and another 4 stages. So they tend to do that. And the stages every year, so for 100 Acre Wood, for example, there's 1 stage that we ran in 2021. So Travis and I have those notes from 2021 and our videos, so we can review those. And then I think it's 3 stages were ran in 2019, and then 2 stages were ran in 2018. And then there's 1 stage that I can't ever find on any old maps that's ran the way it is this year. So it's running in reverse direction. So Travis didn't do the rally in 18. He didn't do the rally in 19. He did the rally in 2021. So for us, for example, we've only got our own notes and video from 2021. But someone like Ken Block or Barry, they both did the rally in 2019. So they'll have those notes and videos as well. So when we talk about stages changing year to year, that's when, if you're doing the championship every year, it becomes a big advantage because you'll be building on those notes every year, sort of thing.
Yeah, and so I guess each stage is a certain length, and then what I was thinking, just what and not knowing, I was thinking like, okay, you've got this stage and it's a big loop and they just run this big loop over and over and over again, but it's just a bunch of different roads and you have one stage that goes to the next stage that goes to the next stage, correct? So you drive your stage and then you stop and you prepare for the next stage. And then do you race these stages just one right after the other for a while? And because you said something about service, so how many stages did you say again that you'll run before you go to service?
Yes, so that's a really good question you asked. So just say we're at day one at 100 Acrewood on Friday. How it would work is all the cars are going to be due into what we call like a park expose or a ceremonial start. You can call it whatever you like, but in America, it's a park expose. So all cars will be due into park expose at say 10 o'clock in the morning. And then at 12 o'clock, the first car will start. So that might be Travis and I. So Travis and I at 12 o'clock, I'll get my time card because you're given a time card and that's where I check into controls when I get to the every stage. So Travis and I all have a road book and that road book tells me how to get to the first stage. So we'll leave at 12 o'clock. I'll get my time card. They'll write 12 o'clock on it and I'll follow the directions in the road book to get us to stage one. And that we call it a transit section. And that transit section might be 15 miles and they might have given us 25 minutes to do it. So as we're going along, I'm telling Travis, okay, we need to turn at this T junction here. And then, okay, in 3 miles, we're going to be turning right on this road and directing him there. I'm also having to monitor how much time we have because we need to check in on time. If we're any minute early, so if we're 1 minute early checking in, we get a 1 minute penalty. If we're 1 minute late checking in, we get a 10-second penalty. So any minute early is going to be minute per minute penalty, and any minute late is going to be 10 seconds per minute penalty. So then when we get there, check tire pressures, put our helmets on, get in the car, and then we're going to race the stage. And that stage could be anything from, say, 3 miles long to 15 miles long, depending on what that stage is. And we'll finish that stage. When we get to the end of the stage, I'll get the time for the stage from the organizers and I'll check it. I wear 2 watches and people are always asking that. So that's me checking my stage time that I recorded. It says, yes, I'm happy. Then we'll take off our helmets and then we're going to transit to the next stage. And that next stage might be in 10 miles. So once again, I'll direct Travis how to get there. We'll have 15 minutes to get there or however long it is. I'll check him in on the right time. We'll go through the same process again. And then it might be 3 stages we've done. And after we've done the 3rd stage, we have a service. So we'll then we'll finish the 3rd stage. We'll check out of that. We'll take our helmets off and we'll transit, say, 12 miles to the service park. And at the service park, that's where all our trucks and everything are set up. And we'll come in and maybe we'll have a 30-minute service. So what will happen in a 30-minute service, I'll check into the service time and I'm the one who has to monitor. We have 30 minutes or however long. So I'll write on the little board what time Travis and I need to be leaving to check out of the control on time. And our service crew then have, say, probably 25 minutes by the time I check in, get us into the service park and whatever. They have that time to then work on our rally car. Well, Travis and I quickly have something to eat. We watch our onboard videos that we've just done to make sure if we need to change anything. And then we'll check out a service and then we'll run through the same process again. Transit stage, and so on and so forth. So that's how a rally runs.
And do they try to locate the service somewhere that's kind of more centrally located to where all of the stages are? Because you would want to like go way, way out and then you're like, oh, we've got to drive an hour and a half to get back to service.
It's actually a good point you make because when you do the World Rally Championship in Wales, in the UK, it used to be crazy. I remember we would do a 3-hour transit in the morning to get to the first stages from Service Park.
Wow.
And then you'd have to all the way back. It would only be possible in a world rally because in a national rally, people would not be impressed. So generally in a national rally, they try and keep it quite central to the stages. But the biggest issue that they come up with is like 100 Acrewood, for example, if you've got 100 cars there, they need to have a really good base of where do you actually have a service park for that many cars. So that's always an issue because a lot of time we used to use schools and things like that, but sometimes schools don't have enough, parking area or anything for 100 different rally teams to be set up. So the whole, issue of where service park is relative to where the stages is sometimes a bit of a problem, and sometimes we are driving up to an hour to get to them and back and forth between the stages, purely because that's the only way they can work it out to make it all work logistically.
And then so if you have like 14 stages that you're running for 100 Acre Wood, let's say, do you run 7 on Friday and 7 on Saturday?
Yeah, so for 100 Acre Wood this year, they're doing 6 on Friday and they're doing 8 on Saturday. So generally about half each day, like you say. It depends. Some rallies will do more on Friday and less on Saturday, and some will do more on. It just depends how they work it out logistically with their stages and stuff. So with 100 Acre Wood, there'll be a few less miles on the Friday compared to the Saturday. So we have 6 stages and then 8 stages. But generally in America, the national rounds are sort of 120 miles competitive up to 150 miles competitive. So anything between that will be us actually racing on the stages competitively. And then your transit sections can be anything as long as, say, 300 miles for the whole event. So we're usually talking about doing between 450 and 500 miles total, with about 120 to 150 stage miles.
Wow. That's a lot of miles in a couple of days. And then I guess so, like, you have all these stages and everything, and then you've got your service. So I'm guessing they're using like ancillary roads to get from the stages to the service, or are you going back through some of the same stage roads?
So the transits between the stages are obviously just other roads that sometimes they're highways, sometimes they're gravel roads and things like that. So when you go out to the stages, obviously you'll just transit on whatever the rally found was the quickest route to get there. So it's good when they keep us on highways for as long as they can and then send us down gravel roads to get to the stages. And then obviously anything in between. When we're going from stage 1 to stage 2, obviously every time, if we do that as a repeat, we're going to do that same transit section exactly the same. So those sections are obviously, to try and just get us there as quickly as we can and not be diverting around other funny ways that make it longer. The whole idea is just to get us there and get us to the stages.
Yeah, because there's been times when I've seen y'all like driving on just a regular road, it looks like, and like, oh, we've got to get back to service and we only have so much time. And I'm like, that's interesting that they're just like cruising down the highway, with the rest of the cars.
Yeah, so the rally cars are obviously fully road legal and registered. So that's really important because the transit sections are normal everyday roads. So highways a lot of the time. And so it's just whatever area we're in, they'll just get us there as quickly as we can. So we never are obviously racing on the transit sections. We do have a time that we have to be there in. So if you're having an issue, it can be a little bit of a problem. Like, we have to do 5 miles in 3 minutes. But we have a rally safe tracking device in our cars, and that tracking device always knows what speed we're doing. So on the transit section, say it's a speed limit of 55 miles per hour and you've got to do 5 miles and you've only got 2 minutes. And if you're like, oh, I'll do 80 miles per hour to get there in time, well, the event's going to know that and you're going to get a penalty. So it's one of those things that the transit sections have to be transit and you just need to abide by the rules. And if you are 2 minutes late, it's 20-second penalties. If you're 6 minutes late, it's 60-second penalties. So it's just one of those things that as the co-driver, you need to manage, how you're going to go about that and how many penalties you're going to be if you're late and all those sort of things.
That's a lot of stuff to keep track of.
Oh yeah. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to do your job, be a co-driver. They just think you sit in the car and call pace notes. They don't know as soon as you finish the stage, the pace notes go away. You get out your other book. You have to direct Travis to the next stage. You need to work out how much time you've got to get to the next stage. you need to get there, you need to do tire pressures, you need to get the helmet, you need to check into the next stage on time, or now you need to get out your pace notes. It's pretty crazy, to be honest.
Yeah, and so when you're doing these transit sections and you're on regular roads, do you ever have anybody in performance cars like pull up next to you, like acting like they want to race you?
So often. And as soon as they notice, like, my husband co-drives for Ken Block and I co-drive for Travis Pastrana. So it's pretty funny if people notice it's Ken Block or Travis Pastrana in these cars, they're all of a sudden like, yelling and hanging out the window. And like, I don't think they know what's going on half the time.
That's funny. Yeah, I could just imagine y'all are cruising down the road and somebody pulls up and they're STI or something and they're like, "Run, run, run, let's go," you know. Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. And they're usually videoing with their phone as well,
Yeah, I mean they're having a good time. I mean, how often do you see a rally car on the road, like that? I guess depending on where you live, you could see it pretty
Exactly.
often.
And look, some of them have probably bought STIs and stuff because the rally comes through the area, and they fell in love with rally and Subarus because maybe they live where 100 Acre Wood Rally comes through or something like that. You know what I mean? And so they grew up going to this rally. And then as an adult, they're like, oh, I want a Subaru STI like I see Travis Pastrana drive. So it's pretty cool when you think about that.
Yeah, I've never wanted to drive an STI more now after watching Launch Control and just talking to other people and stuff. I mean, it's just because I have a Subaru Crosstrek, which is a great car and it's a manual and it's fun to drive it as a manual, but I really want to drive something powerful.
See, it's working.
Yes, it is. It is. So for the rally events and stages, how are points determined? Because on Launch Control, I hear them talking about winning stages, but not the overall event. Can you go into like how the stage wins and points determine the standings?
Yep. So in the American Rally Association, every rally has points that will be awarded. So if you win the rally, you'll get 22 points. If you're second, you'll get 17 points, 14 points, 12, 10, whatever. So going backwards. So every rally, whoever has the lowest overall time. So say Travis and I have 2 hours and Ken has 2 hours and 2 minutes. Obviously, we've beaten Ken by 2 minutes. So we would win the rally and we would get maximum points, 22 points. And if Ken's second, he'll get 17 points. So we have fun with stage wins and all those sort of things, or dollar bets you might hear Travis talking about and all these crazy things. But the reality is you're trying to win stages because your times get added. So your 14 stages, say we're talking about 100 Acre Wood, those 14 stage times will get added together. And your overall time, that lowest overall time, is what's going to win the rally and get the most points. So that's why we talk about stage wins and who got that, because at the end of the day, if you're taking stage wins, the likelihood is you're also winning the rally and having the lowest overall lapse time. One thing they've introduced this year to the American Rally Association is something they do in the World Rally Championship, which is called a power stage. And so how the power stage works is the rally picks one stage on the final day, so on the second day of the rally, and that one stage will be the power stage. And if you win that this year, there'll be 5 points for the winner and then 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is something new this year in America, and Travis and I are pretty excited about it because it adds a new dynamic to the championship. So now you can actually get a maximum of 27 points if you won the rally and you won the power stage. So if you hear us talking about that on Launch Control or our social media or something like that, that's something new this year. And it'll be one stage per rally where they run that.
That's going to be exciting. And do you know, are they going to let you know what it is ahead of time, or are you just going to like pull up to a stage and they're going to be like, by the way, this is the power stage?
No, the regulations. So like the snowdrift regulations, which are out, and the 100 Acre Wood regulations, they both tell you which is the power stage. So you're fully aware of that one. So I think that from my perspective, that'll be the one that Travis and I need to do the most homework on.
Yeah.
Because five extra bonus points, if you win that, that's a lot. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that every rally we sort of pick stages that we know will suit us, or we can really push in and things like that. So I think it's going to be really important that especially if we have open recce, which we do sometimes. If it's open recce and you could do, say, 3 passes rather than 2 on the power stage, knowing that it's worth more points, it would be valuable to do that.
Yeah, so open recce means you can, or I guess what does that mean exactly?
Yep. So usually what will happen is they call it 2-pass recce, and that'll mean, say, it opens at 7:00 a.m. and closes at 6 p.m. And in that time, the most passes you can do on each stage might be 2 passes, for example. But some rallies will just say it's open recce from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. You can do as many passes as you like on every stage, as long as you're not on the stages outside of those times. So it just really depends on how every rally sets it up. Obviously, the speed limit that we talked about earlier will govern, how many passes you will get in and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, open is always great, because if you get through 2 passes and Travis is like, I'm still not really happy with those notes, you can easily quickly loop back around and do that stage again on recce just to do a 3rd pass, for example.
Yeah. Are there any stages that are not as difficult or technical that you have only done recce one time?
No, you would never. I mean, you'd be crazy to do only 1 pass recce because of the fact that if a lot of time Travis might accidentally call me a left instead of a right, or there might be a car coming the opposite way, and so he has to take a little bit of a different line or things like that. So the biggest worry would be if they've called a left instead of a right, for example, and we come over a crest and Travis has told me on recce on the 1 pass, it's a left 3, and you come flying over the crest and it's a right 3, and you didn't, even though you have recce video and things like that, if you didn't have that correct, it can obviously cause a big crash. So the first pass on recce, Travis is obviously telling me what he wants. So he'll be telling me left 3, 30, right 2, 50, whatever, and I'm writing it down. On the second pass, I'm calling it back to him, and he's checking what he's written, and he's adding new information. So if we didn't do that second pass and he couldn't check, the notes he has written, then it could be quite dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because you don't want to you don't want to call something that's like a really sharp turn, call it a right, and it's really a left. So that's that's really good. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you get to each stage, like in watching launch control, there are people that are standing at the beginning of the stages as you get set up and count down to take off. So who are these people that are standing at the front of the stages?
Yep. So before, when I was talking about having to check into controls and time cards and things like that, so every single stage will have a control set up. And you might see on launch control first, we'll have a yellow board, which is like a yellow circle, and that's the entrance to the control. And then you'll get to a red board, and that's where the control starts. And at that red board, you'll see people standing there. And those people, I'm going to hand them my time card, and I'm going to check into that control. So say Travis and I do it there at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, we'll drive past the yellow board, we'll get to the red. I'll hand my time card to those control workers that are working. They'll write down 10 o'clock on my card, and then I'll move down to the next board, which is going to be the start of the stage board, and there'll be more control workers there. I'll hand them my time card again. They'll write what time I need to start the stage. And it's usually 3 minutes after I've checked into the control that you're starting the stage. So then they're going to start me. And Rally Safe, then as soon as they've told me what time, they have an iPad there, those control workers do. And in their iPad, they say Travis and Rhianon starting at 10:03. And then that communicates to my Rally Safe in my rally car. And on my Rally Safe, it'll start counting Travis and I down. So it might tell us we've got 1:15 left. Oh, we've got a minute, then we've got 30 seconds, whatever. And you would hear me, if you ever hear me calling him down to start a stage, I'd say 10, and then I don't say anything. And then I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So those officials are there for us to be able to check in, get our start time and everything. Those officials are all volunteers. So people that are listening to this can do that. So you can, be there where Travis and I are checking in and all those sort of things. So they're volunteers. People will teach you how to do it. And they're just there loving rally, and they get up close and personal because they're obviously there starting us and checking us in and things like that. So actually being a control worker and volunteering that way is a great way to get into rally.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't realize that. I didn't know that they were volunteers. And that's, I mean, for somebody that's, already a fan or interested, that'd be a really good way for them to kind of get introduced to it. And so like when you're doing your countdown, is that the little box that's kind of to the side of you and in front of you? Because you can kind of see it in the launch control camera. You see this like little box, because usually their camera is behind the box, and then you're behind, you're on the other side of the box. So that's what you're looking at when you're doing the countdown.
Yep. So Rally Safe is actually an Australian product, which is cool, just like me. And so what it is it's our timing and tracking. So if you ever want to follow one of our races, there's a Rally Safe app. And the Rally Safe app is what that little box is in our car. That's Rally Safe. And what Rally Safe will do, it'll start our time for the stage, like you just said. So the clock will be counting down, and Travis and I know when we need to start. It's timing the stage as well. It has the time of day, but it's also tracking us for safety reasons. So in rally, obviously, it's not like a circuit. We don't just have ambulances there or people around the track for safety. We're out in a forest, and if you're the top cars, you have 2-minute gaps. So if Travis and I have a serious accident and we're injured, Rally Safe straight away registers what G's we crashed at, and it'll come up on the screen and it's going to say, are we okay, which is green. So if we're okay, I'm going to push that button. It's going to say, are we a hazard on course? So are we blocking the stage or something like that? So I'll push that. It's a sort of yellowy orange button. And then if one of us is injured, there's a button that's a red one. So it's like a SOS, Red Cross, like we need help. So the Rally Safe is not only there for tracking and timing, but it's there for safety as well. The Rally Safe is in every single car. So the Rally Safe also communicates to each other. So just say Travis and I got a puncture. You might have seen, if people watched the last episode of Launch Control 9.2, I think it was, you see Barry McKenna pulls over with a puncture.
Yeah.
And then Travis pass. Well, I already know where he's going to be because my Rally Safe is telling me the car number that we're coming up to, and it's counting down how far until we get to that car number. So it's communicating box to box of the Rally Safe, so that then you also know that you're also looking after each other, if that makes sense. So, Barry and Leon are safe. We see them, they're changing a puncture, we're safe to keep going, sort of thing. And we got on our screen an okay. So the okay comes up, it's Barry, and he's in 300, we keep going. So that when people see that in launch control, it actually has a lot of functions, that little box.
Yeah. So that's really cool, because then that's that's it's definitely good. I see how the safety aspect of it can work, because I was wondering about that, as I'm watching the show, when they had their puncture, I'm thinking, like, do y'all just come up and like, oh man, there's somebody there on the course, So that's good to know that it's alerting all of the drivers through the boxes so that they can know what's happening on the course. So yeah, that's really good.
And sorry, in all honesty, we never used to have those. So it would just be like what you say, you would just come across someone. So they have to be holding an OK board. I think you would have seen as we went past, you saw an OK board. So it tells or they have to be holding an SOS board. SOS means we need to stop and render assistance. So the Rally Safe has been a really good safety development in our sport in America, purely because now we do know where people are, and so does the event. The event knew when Travis and I crashed at New England Forest Rally, they knew straight away we'd crashed. You know what I mean? So, and straight away they're getting a transmission that we were a hazard because our car's sort of blocking the road, and there was all, debris from the car all over the road. So we were okay, but our car was a hazard. So on our Rally Safe, we pushed hazard. So people knew, Travis and Rhea fine, but we need to slow down a bit because their car is a hazard on course. So it's been I've been using it in Australia since about 2010, but it's only been implemented in America full time since 2021. So it's a great, thing that we now have here.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that new. That's pretty awesome. That's going to change Well, it's going to really help all of the drivers and the teams and everybody that's involved with it moving forward with all these rallies. That's going to be really, really cool. So it's such a like a great asset to have.
Yeah, and it's important for you spectators too, because you can be at home and you can have the Rally Safe app and you can be tracking where Travis and I are in the stage. You can look at, I think it even shows what speed we're doing at the time, and straight away it tells you the stage time we did, and then you can see Ken Block's little dot coming through, and then you can see Barry's, and you can see everyone else's dot coming through because it has our little number on it. So ours is 199. And you can see that we're coming through the stage, and you can check that everything's good. So it's great for wives or families at home that can't necessarily be at the rally, but this tracking device and Rally Safe tells them stage times. It tells them where they are. It's a brilliant little thing.
So everybody go download Rally Safe if you want to keep up with what's going on with the events this year.
Yeah, and it's all over the world. So Rally Safe will have options to be watching a rally in Australia, and you can be watching a rally in Norway and in the WRC or whatever, because even the WRC uses Rally Safe now. So it's pretty cool, to be honest.
Yeah, the beauty of technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So getting to something that's a little less technical, how do you determine, it's not because it's not technology, but how do you determine which tires are best to use on a particular stage? Because I've seen in, a lot of the episodes that I've been watching when they're back at service, they're kind of sitting there and they're looking and they're talking about the course and they're talking about whether there's snow or ice or the gravel and like the texture of the road and everything, and they're trying to determine which tires to use. And okay, do we want to use all of our tires on the stage, or do we just want to stick with the tires that we have and not switch them until later? How do you determine which ones are best to use?
Yeah, so when we do recce, Travis and I have a look at like the surface, and some gravel roads are obviously more abrasive than others. Some are more rocky, some are more sandy. So obviously all those things come into account when we're selecting what tire compound we'll use for that rally. So our team is sponsored by Yokohama, and Yokohama have different compounds that we can use. So depending on if it's a sandy surface, you're going to use quite a soft compound because obviously it's not so abrasive. So you're not going to be wearing out the tires. And the soft compound means that then hopefully the tire will work. You'll actually get the heat into the tire, you'll get the grip that you need and things like that. Whereas if you go somewhere else and the rocks are more abrasive in the surface, when you're doing recce and you notice those sort of things, you want to run more of a medium tire. In America, we don't tend to run hard compound tires. The roads aren't so abrasive here, so it's not something that we've really had to do. I've only ever used like a really hard compound in some of the world rallies I've done, or some in Asia as well that I've done. But generally here in America, you're usually using a medium or a soft compound. And then we have to make that decision after recce. So when we start that day and we're, like I said before, leaving the ceremonial start, the most tires we can have is the 4 tires that we have on and 2 spares. So if Travis and I have made a wrong decision, we have to do that group of stages before we get to service to then change what we're going out with. So it's not like we can do one stage and we're like, oh crap, we've made the wrong decision on tire compounds because, sorry, you need to do another 3 stages before you can change them. So it's one of those things that I think you would have seen in launch control, the first one when we were doing snowdrift. We were on an ice tire or something, and Travis decided on the 3rd loop that he would change to a snow tire, or we were on a snow tire and changed to ice tire. I can't remember exactly, but we changed and we were like, oh my goodness, have we lost the rally? Because for the first stage, we had big moments. We nearly hit trees and those tires just weren't working. And so we were really worried that our 1 minute gap that we had, the lead of the rally might be thrown away because of a wrong tire choice.
Yeah, it's very critical like that. And then so I guess you can have, like you were saying, you have to figure out which tires are going to be best because I imagine you can have different conditions with one stage to the next. And so I guess you have to determine like, okay, this stage has these kind of conditions, but then we get into a little bit something different and then maybe a little bit something different here. Is that how it works sometimes? Is you just have different conditions and different stages?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point you raised because, especially if it's rained, one stage mightn't have as good a surface, so it becomes very boggy and muddy and slippery. Travis and I need to really determine that where do we think the most advantage is? Is it that we need to make sure that we don't make a mistake in these slippery conditions? So we're better off to run a soft tire that we put cuts in to try and move some of the water off the surface and things like that? Or are we better off to try and, make up some time on the other stages where it's not so slippery and wet and things like that? And the other tough thing is on recce, maybe it was dry and then it's rained overnight and you're trying to work out, well, we don't have any of the slippy spots in our notes because it was dry when we did recce and now it's wet when we did the rally. So it's just one of those things where Travis and I sit down, we look at the schedule, we look at the distances for the stages, and we decide what's going to be the best plan moving forward as far as these two stages are slippery and wet, this stage is dry. Okay, well, that's 30 miles of today and that's 8 miles of today. So it's important that we run with a soft cut tire because 30 miles is where we can lose more time than the other 8 mile stage.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, this is that was just like, watching them try to determine what tires to use. And there was even one episode I saw where I don't remember what the conditions were. Maybe it was muddy or something. And and it was an older episode, I believe, but they were cutting extra grooves into the tire to get it to grip better. And I thought that was pretty interesting and pretty cool.
Yeah, we do that a lot in the wet rallies. So what you try and do is you try and open the tire up a bit more. So you might do, say, a cut right around the middle, but then you might do a every second groove. And that cut every second groove will hopefully disperse some of the water and mud and not clog the tire up too much because you're opening up the tread pattern more. So it's definitely something that we're allowed to do. And we do it as much as we can when needed just to try and get the best grip out of the tires.
Yeah, because I've only seen that in one episode, and it may be in others, but I remember seeing that, and I thought that was really interesting. So that was pretty cool. And then,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, and then sticking with tires, how do you, at the beginning of the stage, you're getting out and you're checking the tire pressures, or how do you determine what PSI you should use for the tires that you're using?
Yeah, so that will also depend on temperature of the day. So each manufacturer of tire will have a sort of standard level of what they want you to start the stage at and the hot temperature you'd like to finish the stage at. So, for example, Yokohama might say, okay, Rhiannon, we want you starting the stage at 27 psi. And when you get to the end of the stage and you get out to take your helmets off, when you check the tire pressure's hot, we want the tire pressures hot at 31, 32 sort of thing. So if for some reason I get out and I check the tires at the end of the stage and they're only at 29, I'll know that, okay, they're not heating up today. The surface isn't obviously very grippy. So we're not getting the same temperatures we would usually get. And then the tires aren't performing at the level Travis would need them to. So it's a little bit of a work, an art, a fine art, because you have to, I manage the tire pressures in our car, but generally drivers do it. But with Travis and I do it. And then I ask him, how did they feel? How was the grip and stuff? And then determine from that whether we need to carry a little bit higher PSI or lower or things like that. So it's definitely something that's very, very important. And a lot of new teams or a lot of teams that have been racing for a long time don't even think about this. And then they're disadvantaging themselves because it's such an important thing that your tires won't work properly if you don't have the temperatures and the pressures and all that set well. So it's a good question you ask because it's something that's extremely important in what we do.
Yeah, and then I'm guessing that at each of the beginning of the stages, you have a compressor there to air up if you need a little extra pressure, or do you not?
No, it's a bit of an issue because if obviously when you're out there, you don't have an air compressor or anything. So if for some reason they're at 25 and you want them at 28, there is little little tiny little bottles that you can buy that are these little air things that you can put in, like an emergency pack. So if one tire is, but generally what I do is I settle the tires, and then if we get to the end of the stage and one of the tires is like a lot lower, we might have a slow leak or something like that. So then I'm going to check it again when we get to the start of the next stage. And if that tire is still low, Travis and I are going to quickly do a tire change and put on one of our spare tires, because if it is a bit lower, there might be something going on with that tire, and you don't want to risk getting a puncturing stage because you're too lazy to change it out like before the stage started.
So how many spare tires do you carry with you in the car? Because I'm guessing that adds a little bit of extra weight. I mean, well, I mean it does, but probably not a whole lot. But how many do you carry with you?
We carry two. So Travis and I always carry two. Our cars with the American Rally Association regulations have minimum weight that they need to be. So with our cars, obviously you're trying to get the weight as light as you can and as close to minimum weight as you can. So for us, two tires means that we're over the minimum weight, which is a good thing. But it also means that, you know, if you go out and do 4 stages and you get a puncture in the first stage and then you get a puncture in the third stage, well, if you only had one spare, you're pretty screwed.
Yeah.
So we take two because of 2 reasons: to make sure that we're, you know, above minimum weight and things like that. And then the second reason, to make sure that, you know, we're never risking not having a spare if for some reason we got 2 punctures in a loop of stages.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything that we've been talking about so far, there's so much that goes into rally. And I mean, just from like what we were just talking about, the tire pressure and tire tread, and then deciding what tires to use on the stage, and then doing your recce, and then everything that you have to do as a co-driver. So what are some of the toughest things or challenges about rally?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question, because I personally think one of the biggest challenges that we face is the weather conditions. So, you know, we do recce on Thursday and then a storm happens overnight, and the conditions that we recceed on the day before are completely different to the conditions that we're going to go out and face. And it's not like you go and see those stages again. You just get there and you know, you're flat out. So the next launch control you'll see, I think, is going to be on Olympus. And Brandon had an accident where he crashes into the bridge at Olympus. And that stage, when we did recce, it wasn't wet and slippery like that. So Travis and I are first car on the road, and we nearly hit the bridge because we come in and we didn't realize the lack of grip that we were going to find. And we were the first car. So it wasn't like we had any braking markers or anything like that to look at. We were just, you know, doing the best we could in these conditions. And then Brandon come along and hit the bridge after us. And it was one of those things where, you know, the recce that we did the day before, the stage conditions was completely different. So, you know, even at LSPR, for example, a rally we do later in the year, we could do recce on Thursday, and then Friday morning you wake up to 2 inches of snow.
Wow.
You know, and it's just crazy. And you've got gravel tires, you know, you've gone there to do a gravel rally, and it becomes a snow rally. So I honestly think that the changing conditions that can happen and not going out and seeing those new conditions and just having to be flat out and then you find them is probably the biggest challenge. I really don't like it when we do recce and it rains overnight, and the next day, you know, if we're first on the road and we're finding those slippery spots, it's very uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be really, really tough to go into something that you did not really prepare for.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So what have been some of the most difficult rally events for you and Travis?
I think our hardest events are the events that Travis hasn't done as much lately, if that makes sense. So Travis over the last few years has been, you know, just doing rallies here and there. It hasn't been his full-time thing that he's been doing. So that's meant that, you know, when we get to events, he doesn't have the same knowledge that some of the other drivers might have, like Barry, who's been doing it consistently for the last few years. And Ken's in a bit of the same position as us because he's been doing a lot of things overseas, and then you come back to America. So I think it's a big challenge that, some of these rallies we don't know as well. But then there's some rallies that he loves and he knows really well. So a Jeepway, for example, he's won it, I don't know, 7 times or something crazy. Him and I have won it twice together. So both times Travis and I have done it, we've won it. It's a rally that he's exceptionally fast at. He knows really well. When he wasn't racing much and he was only doing 2 rallies a year, he'd always try and do a Jeepway because he loved it. So, but then Snowdrift, for example, he did it in 2010 and then he hadn't done it again until we won it in 2021. So, he went 11 years without doing that rally. And that's a long time in our sport to then be competing against people who may have done it, the last few years. So it's one of those things that, like, at the end of the day, like, the rallies that we haven't done as much are our biggest challenges, purely because Travis is, having to write notes from scratch and all those sort of things. And it's something new to him. So that's definitely a hard thing for us, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. Because that would be difficult to not race for a long time and then, come back to it and then try to get reacclimated to it, either to new stages or in rallies or ones that you've done before. And like you said, they're not always the same every year. So that could be a challenge as well.
No, and like someone like Travis, he won the national championship in something like, I don't know, 2006, 7, 8, 9, for example. And then he then really was doing other things, bits and pieces. And then he come back and he won the championship in 2017 because he did the full championship and he won it. And then obviously we won it in 2021. But he has been someone that was doing it full time back in the 2000s sort of thing, and then went away from it with only doing bits and pieces, and then is obviously back again now. So it was interesting, the big gap he had between winning his 4 and then winning his 5th one in 2017, and then he has another gap and then he wins again in 2021. So he definitely has been a driver that has come and gone. So that consistency of knowing rallies and stages is been something that why we have been doing so much homework, to be honest, because YouTube has so many videos now that we can watch of people's onboards to look at and stuff like that. So even though he has been away, that has been like, even for 100 Acre Wood, for example, even though we've only got one stage of our notes and one stage of our video, I've been able to find videos of 6 of the other stages. And then the other stage, like I mentioned before, is brand new to all of us. So I'm going to be going to his house in a few days, and we're going to be working on those videos and notes that I've been able to do research and find. So even though he may not have done them, and Ken and Barry might have, for example, my research and homework then means that I can put him to work. And even though he's injured, I can give him homework to do while he's laying on the couch.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm sure he'll be excited about that. So, and you're definitely a huge asset, and, any co-driver is a huge asset to the driver on these stages. I mean, and for anybody listening, if you haven't watched Launch Control and you don't know much about rally, watching Launch Control, you really understand how important a co-driver is for the driver, especially and then especially the pace notes, because I don't remember which episode it was, but I saw the one where David Higgins had his hood flip up onto his windshield and they were able to finish it. I mean, of course, he's got somewhat of a view underneath that little small sliver of the, hood that he can see through, but they finished the race big part because of the pace notes. I mean, that was really incredible.
That's always a scary situation when that happens, because you're trying to peek under that little gap that's like maybe half an inch that you can see and call the pace notes. And you definitely don't want to be driving a stage blind. That's for sure. The pace notes are what allow the driver to drive fast and commit to the notes, and the blind crest know what's coming next, sort of thing.
Yeah, and they're still going really fast with that flipped up hood, So I've heard, I think the first person I heard say it was Travis, and then I've kind of heard the commentator say it on Launch Control. But what does it mean when they say 10 tenths? Is that like 100%? And where did that come from?
Yeah, 10 tenths is definitely 100%. It's virtually saying I gave my all and there was nothing else left. You know what I mean? So if you're going 11 tenths, maybe having some moments because you're over driving and you're going higher than what's possible. But 10 tenths is virtually, hey, I did that stage, I gave 10 tenths, I gave 100%, I had nothing else left. And if someone beats me, good luck to them, I think sometimes the boys will say, because at the end of the day, if you know that you listen to your notes, you committed 100% and 10 tenths, and someone beats you, you sort of like, man, where did I lose that time? Because for me, that was everything I had. So it means hold on, co-driver.
Yeah, I was just curious because I'd never heard that term before until I started watching it, so I just thought it was interesting and kind of like, well, why wouldn't they just say 100%? But, I guess it's just maybe to be different or something. I don't know.
It's definitely something that's always used in rally. Like some people, they might at the end of the stage say, yeah, I was only 9 tenths in there, I didn't feel good about the grip or whatever. So it must be a rally thing. I don't know why we do it, but yeah, why we don't say 90%, 100%, then 10 tenths, 9 tenths, whatever is the way rally drivers like to say it.
Yeah, I like it. It's cool. It's different, So, and then how does rally different from rally cross?
That's a good question. A lot of people get the two confused, that's for sure. Rally cross is where, so I've explained a lot about rally. We have stages, we drive transit sections, our cars are road legal, all those sort of things, where a rally cross car isn't road legal. They're definitely built different to our rally cars because they're just on a track. They don't need to be driving a transit section to a stage, having blinkers working and all those sort of things. So if you say, a lot of people refer to, I watched the rally cross, but they were watching the rally. So a rally cross would be a track that you go to, and it's say 1 mile long, and you're going to have say 10 cars out there at once, all racing door to door, like you see in circuit racing. Whereas obviously in rally, we're out on a stage, it's one car leaves, and then a minute later or 2 minutes later, another car leaves, and to work out who's the quickest, it's who did the quickest time on the stopwatch, you know what I mean? In rallycross, on the other hand, you're racing on this track door to door, and you do say 6 laps, and whoever is over the finish line first after the 6 laps is the winner. So it's interesting that they call it rally and rallycross, because it is very confusing for people who are new to the sport, and they tend to get confused with the two, but they're actually very different. Rallycross has no co-driver. They're definitely two very different sports as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, and I didn't know the difference until I started watching Launch Control, because I was like, I don't understand. There's rally and there's rally cross. I don't know which one is which. But I mean, with rally cross, I mean, you can get taken out really quickly, so I know that that's like frustrating for the team. So, when you watch Launch Control, you can see that happen sometimes. It's like they go out and bam, they're taken out on the first turn, and then they're done. So it's a lot different.
The first turn is always a bad one. It happens so often because you've got usually 3 cars on the front of the grid. They're all going flat out into that first turn to try and get the best line out. And if you've got all these cars banking up into that first corner, the likelihood is at least one person's going to be out after that first turn. So in rally, if Travis crashed just on the first turn of the rally, I would be so pissed off.
Yeah. I mean, because you're fighting the stage itself and time, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You've done the work, you've put in the effort and everything, and now it's just you and me and Travis in that car doing everything we possibly can to set that fastest stage time. And at the end of it, hopefully we beat all the others. It's not like we're crashing door to door and watching someone else go off the track. You have no idea until you're driving along on the transit section. I keep updating my Rally Safe app to see the next time that comes through to see if we won the stage or if we're leading the rally and things like that. So it's definitely a lot different to what we would deal with in rallycross.
Yeah. But it's all interesting to watch for sure. And so, lastly, you have a rally training business called Oz Rally Pro with your husband, Alex, who is also a professional co driver for Ken Block. Can you tell us a little bit about Oz Rally Pro and for any listeners who may want to get into rally?
Yeah, so our business, Oz Rally Pro, we started in 2013. I used to be a PE teacher and I love teaching. And when I took up co-driving full time in 2010, I also was finding that I really wanted to teach people and show people about the sport I loved. And also be able to teach. I didn't want to lose that passion with teaching. So for anyone who does want to get into the sport, it's a really good way to come and learn about what rally is. So currently we have a co-driver course that I think has 5 spots left available at Dirtfish Rally School. And that course would be for anyone who's interested in being a co-driver. Even if you're interested in being a driver, I would suggest it's a good thing to come and be part of, because we teach you so many different things in those 2 days that you would learn that you can actually put towards your driving, if that makes sense. So on those 2 days, you would train with my husband Alex and I and one other trainer at Dirtfish, and you would learn how to go from, starting to be a co-driver to actually doing your first rally. So we put you in rally cars at Dirtfish. You get to call pace notes. You get to do recce. You learn, how you learn all the rules and all those sort of things. So we have classroom, we have practical, we have in rally cars. So that's one of we always used to do one-on-one, which we still do one-on-one, so people can work directly with just Alex and I one-on-one. But we started doing these classroom ones because we were finding there was a lot of new people that wanted to get into co-driving. And to do that, they wanted to be able to sit in a rally car to see if they actually liked it. So we spoke to Dirtfish about the idea of us collaborating together, Oz Rally Pro and Dirtfish, to try and get more people involved in rally. So we've trained over 300 people, but last year with Dirtfish's little trainings with 12 people each one, we trained 36 new co-drivers, and over half of them have now done a rally. So if people are wondering how they could get into it, how could they be a co-driver, that course is, I think from memory, like $999, like $1,000. It's based at Dirtfish in Seattle. The next one is March 5th and 6th. And like I said, I think there's maybe 5 spots left. And in those 2 days, you would go from, learning the basics of what we do to at the end of the training being in a rally car calling pace notes. So it's a really good way to get into the sport if someone wants to do that. And otherwise, like I said, we have one-on-one training where we train drivers in pace notes, we train co-drivers in what they need to do and things like that. So if anyone does want to contact us about that, our email is ozrallypro@gmail.com, or we've got Facebook or Instagram where you can look it up and you can obviously come train with Alex and I and get into the sport that way.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good opportunity too for somebody who's, really interested in it and serious about, being a co-driver or just getting into the sport. Do you have people that come do it just to do it that aren't really interested in, like, I'm not really interested in being a co-driver professionally or even just, whatever, but I kind of want to just do this for the experience of it and be able to get in a rally car and see what it's really all about firsthand?
Yeah, we have a few people that are just fans of the sport. We actually had a couple last year who thought that they were just coming because they love rally and they just wanted to learn more about it. And then they did really well in the training, and Alex and I found rides for them. And so now they've been rallying. And so they're like, no way did I think that when I went to your training just to, as a fan, learn more about rally and just train with you and Alex because they might have been a fan of Alex and I and things. And then all of a sudden they had really good skills and we noticed that and we got them in rides and now they're rallying. So it's one of those things that I think sometimes people go there thinking that, maybe they're not going to get into it, but they just want to learn about it. And then they leave saying, when can I do my first rally? So
Yeah.
that's a cool thing.
Yeah, those are some of the best stories to tell, and I mean, because in life, there's just so many situations that people get into where they just like, oh, hey, I want to just go do this thing. And then the next thing you know, that's what they're doing for a living, or they're doing it as like a really big hobby because they just found this passion to do something, and didn't expect anything from it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in all honesty, this guy, one of the guys in particular, I think he trained in our March group. And I think he ended up going to 4 rallies by the end of the year. And I'd seen him official at a couple of rallies. So he had that interest there. But I remember him at the rally saying that, I just wanted to train with you and Alex. And I just wanted to learn more about when, I'm watching rally, what they're doing. And then he was so good that, yeah, he's done quite a few rallies. And I messaged him the other day about a ride thinking, I've got an opportunity for him. And he's like, oh, I've already got 6 rallies on book for this year. And I was like, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, and I'm sure for you and Alex, when you hear something like that, knowing that somebody's gotten really excited about it and they're booking out, races and everything, that y'all were the ones that put them on that path. And then, but then sometimes, like that couple, they weren't coming there expecting that to be their path, and then now it is. So I'm sure there's like a great satisfaction, like for you getting back into teaching. You're doing something that you really love, and you get to share your passion and help people get excited about it and get into it. And so that's one of the most rewarding things, is when you hear people's feedback of like, I'm actually doing this now, thank you so much for helping me get here.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes we'll look at an entry list and we'll count how many of the people entered are our students. And one of the rallies, 50% of the people were our students. And it was the best feeling ever, because Alex and I, yes, it's our job, but rally is our passion. It's what we love. You know what I mean? Like, Alex is currently in Africa racing in the safari rally we can. And it's a bucket list event, and to think that he gets to travel to Africa to do his job in racing and do what he loves, like, it's just amazing. So if we can get more people involved in the sport that we love and our passion, like, it's just amazing for us. And like you said, some people may never rally, but by them coming and learning about it, then they watch Launch Control and they're like, yeah, I called pace notes, I know how that feels. Like,
Yeah. Well, and like you said that it's your job, doing rally and doing this school, but you get to do something that you're very passionate about for your job, and not everybody gets a chance to do that. Some people, like, they end up having to work a job that they don't enjoy, and maybe they have a hobby, but to be able to do something that you love as your career. And yeah, it's a lot of work. I know it's a lot of work for you. And you have the school, and then you have rallying, you have everything that you explained in this episode that you have to do as a co-driver. And I'm sure there's a lot more, that you have to do that you didn't explain, but it's obviously something that you love and something that you are continuing to do because you love it, and it's your career, which is like just the best thing.
I think it's what we all wish for, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, so, and I think for listeners out there who are passionate about rally, or they're just learning about it, and they want to know more, my suggestion is, go to a rally, have a look at the American Rally Association, look at where the rallies are, go check it out, be a volunteer. And if you want to get more involved, come and do one of our Oz Rally Pro trainings, where you actually learn the role of being a co-driver. So you can turn up and you know how to check into a control, you know how to use a time card, you know how to look at the maps to work out how you work out a recce plan. Like, I spend hours on maps. I've got maps laying everywhere here right now, just going over, my recce plans and things like that. So it's one of those things that a lot of people are like, they don't even realize that they need to use maps being a co-driver, because you hear me calling pace notes, but I need to use maps to devise a really good recce plan to work out my best way to do reconnaissance for Travis and I. So there's so many cool things that, a person who's watching Launch Control or listens to your podcast and they're wanting to get into rally and learn more, well, Oz Rally Pro trainings and officialing and all that stuff is definitely ways you can get into it. And then if you do like it, well, then obviously you can start to work out your budget of how much you can spend on it and things like that. Because as a co-driver's point of view, we don't have to buy a car and things like that. We need a helmet, we need a race suit, those sort of things. but we don't need the same budget as the driver does. So I say to a lot of people, yes, I know you want to be a driver, but if you don't have the budget to be a driver, why not become a co-driver? Because it's still a great way to be able to get into rally, and you still get to do this sport that you've fallen in love with, but you're just doing it from the co-driver's side of the car rather than drivers. And then maybe you can afford to do it. So that's what I always think when I say to people about that.
And I think just, being a co-driver, being able to be in a car like that and go fast and know that you're a big part of the driver's success, that's, there's a lot to be said about that too. Like, just don't focus on being like, I just want to be a driver. I just want to be a driver. The co-driver's role is so very important to what the driver is going to end up doing it, throughout the course and where you end up at the end of it.
Yeah, a good co-driver is also going to make a driver win rallies. You know what I mean? So I think that that's really important for people to understand that if you work hard and you do your job well and you develop experience and you build yourself up in the sport, there's no reason why you can't be doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, I started when I was like 24 or 5. It wasn't like I was one of those people that started doing this when I was 17 or 18. And there's people that start later. Like, one of our oldest students was in his 70s and he's like, oh man,
Wow.
I've been doing everything wrong for years. And so, like, there's, we have so much variety. We've trained 12-year-olds, we've trained 70-year-olds, we've trained all types of ages. And a lot of people will contact us, oh, my 14-year-old son's interested. Will you train, like, to be a co-driver? Of course we'll train 14-year-olds. You know what I mean? Like, this is fantastic to think that a 14-year-old might have a passion and know what they want to do. So, and if a kid's passionate about it, they're going to come and they're going to take it seriously. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things that it's rally is for all ages, I tell people.
Yeah, and it's, when you talk about like the important, or when I was saying like the importance of the co-driver, and it helps well, you said that it helps the driver win the race. I started noticing, like, at the end of your stages, like, y'all give each other, like, y'all shake each other's hands, and y'all say, good run or whatever. And, it's really cool to see that little, the smile on your faces there at the end, knowing that you did a really good stage. So that's cool, because y'all both know that each other's roles are important in the success of what y'all just did in that stage.
Yeah, and I think it's important too, like, they mightn't show you some of the times, but some of the times we might cross the line and straight away Travis is like, oh, I need to change this note or do that, or I'm saying, oh, I could have called that or this, or so we're giving each other immediate feedback as well, if that makes sense, because we want to be the best. So it's one of those things that you cross the line and you've both done an awesome job in there. You're like, yeah, good job, mate. That was awesome. But then other times you might cross the line and Travis is like, oh man, I lost a second on that hairpin and this and that. So we find that we're both very analytical of our performance inside the car. And it's really important because we're obviously trying to be the best and win. And so if we were both just always like, yeah, well, that was awesome, we're so good, and then we get beaten by like 10 seconds, it's like, oh, maybe we weren't so good.
Yeah. Well, and that's important too when you have a rally where you are running one of those stages again. Like you said, oh, I should have done this or I should have done that. So if you know that you're going to run that stage again, then you can readjust and everything. So that's a really good point.
Yeah, we have to make sure our onboards are working, because if we're going to run that stage again, we need to get that onboard out and quickly watch it on my laptop when we're eating, quickly while we're watching that. And I've got the notes and we're like, okay, we lost time in this section. Why did we lose time? So we're quickly making a change to our notes. So when we go back out to do it again, we want to win that stage rather than losing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I didn't have any more questions for this, but I want to say thank you so much for coming back on and doing this little Rally 101 for listeners out there. And, it's kind of funny because, like, I got into doing this podcast, and, I was introduced to you, and, and like for fans and people that watch Rally and know who you are and everything, like, I'm sure they think it's like a big deal that I have you on, and it is. And then, having Warwick on, and then having like Bucky Lassick on, And, when I first started getting into the Subaru world and I bought my car, and like even when I went to Boxer Fest and I met Bucky for the first time and met some people there from Subaru, it wasn't as big of a deal to me, I think, that it is for a lot of people, because I really just didn't know that much about about Subarus and about the community and about people and about rally and everything. And so it's like the more I get immersed in this, the more I realize like this is a really, really big deal, and it's like really, really cool. And I'm extremely and just grateful and thankful for these opportunities that starting this podcast has given me. But, and it's not just for me. I get to have people like you on, and Warwick and Bucky, and even just, and of course the people in the community, and everybody gets to share their story and give information. And like, I get messages from people that say, thank you for doing the podcast, because a lot of people have gotten connected with each other because they saw that somebody was on the podcast. But it's also given everybody something to listen to on Monday, and now on Wednesdays
Yeah.
with a news segment. And so I know that it's become a part of people's lives, and kind of like with you, hearing about people that started getting into rally because of going to your school. The feedback that I get from people saying, thank you for doing the podcast and having, because now they get to listen to you, they get to listen to you talk about rally. And, and I feel like I feel very fortunate that I get to be able to provide that to the people that love listening to the podcast. So just, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this, because it really, really means a lot to me. And I know it means a lot to the people listening.
Yeah, in all honesty, this is my life and I love it. And I love doing podcasts and I love fans, and I do so many fan giveaways and things like that, which people haven't done in my position before, because in all honesty, it's my world. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when I see the joy and excitement on, I might have, say, 6 Subaru prizes and Travis has signed them and everything. And I do this draw, and people have won, a signed t-shirt by Travis, which they have no access to other than if I ran these competitions, you know what I mean? So a lot of people will sometimes comment, and I think to myself, well, at the end of the day, this is my passion, this is my love, and I want to give back to the people. Like, and you're giving back to the people. You're providing a service to people by doing what you do and having me on your show. And Bucky, I co-drove for Bucky in a rally too. He's an awesome guy.
Oh, that's cool.
So so by doing, it was in 2016 with Subaru, so that was pretty cool. So by doing what you do, you're providing a service to fans and Subaru people. And then by me loving not only my co-driving, but my passion of Oz Rally Pro, but also the passion of how great Subaru fans are, to give away prizes and stuff like that, to me is a big deal. And not, I don't know any other professional co-drivers that do that, but for me, it's really important because that's part of the reason I love what I do as well.
Well, that's really good to know, because I've seen the giveaways that you've put up and put on Instagram. So yeah, thank you for doing that. I mean, I haven't entered any of them, but for the people that have won, I know that means a lot to them, and to know that you are, one of the only ones that does that. That's really cool. That's awesome that you do that.
Yeah, so make sure your listeners look out for those, because I usually have like 3 questions or something. And if they've listened to your podcast, they may know the answers.
Okay.
and so they may win some prizes. So definitely I'm planning to, because I'll be seeing Travis, I'll get him to sign some things, and I'll be planning to do some more giveaways soon. So I usually try and do, at least 100 prizes a year sort of thing is my goal. So
Yeah.
it's something that I love doing. But I appreciate you doing this podcast too, because it gets rally out to people, having me on the show. It gets the passion out, and hopefully maybe we'll get some more people out on the stages and doing the same sport that I do.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for being on, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely having you on and doing the episode with Warwick and starting to watch Launch Control. It's like really. And even now, talking to you even more, I'm like, man, I really want to go watch Launch Control after this, because that's like such a great place to see it all happen.
Exactly. Now we just have to wait for the next episode to come out.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to see what happens. So, thank you so much again, and I hope you have a good night. And but yeah, thank you so
Sounds
much again.
great. Good.
Hey, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed that episode. I really did. It was awesome having her on and learning more about rally. I've been learning some watching more episodes of Subaru Launch Control and figuring out like what goes into rally and the drivers and kind of what they have to deal with. But having Rhianon on to talk about it was really, really awesome. Thanks again, Rhianon, for coming on and doing this. I hope everybody got something from it. And if you are living anywhere near any of these events, or even if you can travel to one, it seems like it would be a really great opportunity to go volunteer and kind of get in depth with what's going on there and even meet some of the drivers. So that would be really cool to be a part of that. So if you're not doing so, please go watch Subaru Launch Control. It is a great documentary that follows the race team for our favorite car manufacturer. So, and if you're also not doing so, go follow Rhianon Gelsomino on Instagram and check out Oz Rally Pro and see what she's doing there with that program. That's really, really cool that she has taken her passion for teaching and now that she has created this school for co-drivers who are interested in getting into the business. So thanks again, everybody, for showing up and listening. I really appreciate it. We will see you on Wednesday for the news segment, and then, of course, next Monday for another regular episode. Have a great week.